Hello and welcome to another LinkedIn Live. As usual, I'm going to do a quick 2-minute chat before we get into the topic so that people have a chance to join. I know LinkedIn's quite helpful in that it sends out the notifications, and people, if they're not quite ready or they'd forgotten about it or in the middle of something, then they can actually get the notification and see it in time. And I usually do a little bit of intro, a little bit about me. So what we got? Something different today. Back in 1988. 1988. That's a while ago, isn't it? Is that 38 years? Yeah, it must be, because I've been in Pharma now for 4 decades. So 1988, because I started in 86. 38 years ago, I built my own computer. Can you believe it? I built a computer from pieces. So the company that I was working for had decided 3 of their computers needed updating. They bought some new ones, and I saw the 3 ready to be thrown away in the bin. Well, I needed a computer. I was already using a PCW, but I wanted to upgrade to a PC. Was that PC 1512 Amstrad it was, and I wanted to upgrade to the IBM. I wanted a tower, and they were throwing away a tower and 2 desktops. I said, oh, they don't work. So I said, well, can I take them and see if I can fix them? And instead of having the 3 separate computers, what I did was I brought all 3, the components from all 3 into one, and basically used the largest, which of course was the tower, and checked which components worked, kept the ones that worked, and threw out the ones that didn't. Ended up with I think it was 3 drives in one computer. I had more memory in it than any of the originals because I filled all the slots up, and ended up with my own Windows computer to use for free. So I thought that was good. Okay, now we've had the 2 minutes, so hopefully everybody's joined. Today's a bit unusual because it's not really GMP or history of GMP. It's about AI, and this will be the first in a series of webinars that I'm going to do about AI. So if you do have questions or comments or specific topics that you would like me to focus on in a future episode, I will be talking about AI. I'm going to try and do once a week, but it might be a bit less. It might be once every couple of weeks sometimes. For example, next week I'm on holiday, so I haven't decided if I'm going to do the lives or not. Might get one of the team to do them. Maybe Annetta or Farah. Anyway, today we're talking about AI, automation, and the future of pharma. But really, I'm not going to go hugely into the details behind AI because this is just the first session. But what I am going to go into detail about is impact and team and awareness. So that's really what we're starting with today. So on the first. Well, I'm calling it an episode. I haven't broadcast this as a podcast, but I suppose I could. So, pharmaceuticals. Pharma is entering a new era. I'd say we're in it, but not many people know. Artificial intelligence is moving from concept to reality, and I know companies are using it. But automations, is it transforming pharmaceutical operations globally? I think it will. I think it started. But it depends which company you're in. Some companies are using it knowingly, and some are using it because their suppliers have already implemented. I talked about it at the recent QP forum. In fact, the last 2, the UK and the EU QP forums. Because I want to make sure that the QPs are aware that AI has been implemented. I call it by stealth. People are doing it up front as well and knowledgeably. But for example, if you're using HPLC and you've got your LIMS system and then you transfer into another system, you'll probably find along the way that your data has already been manipulated by AI. So be careful. because it's getting introduced to enhance the processing. Make sure you're aware of what that enhancement means. Make sure you understand how it's affecting your finished results. Regulatory authorities are embracing AI-driven technologies as well. Recently, I've seen them used for observations, although I'm not so sure it was such a good idea. But the person that received it realized afterwards, not at the time, that there was some discrepancies in the way that the observation had been written. Now, I think going forward, we'll become more and more aware of it. And I do think regulators will use it to assist with their analysis of data. So imagine they're coming onto site with digital capability, and they ask you to give them, or maybe they ask you to upload beforehand to some sort of shared secure area. And then they use AI to analyze the data that you've delivered to them. Rather than having one person, maybe 3 days, you've got a computer that does that amount of work probably each 20, 30 seconds. And then they look at discrepancies between the data that's come in versus the information that's coming out. Or maybe they look at trends. Maybe they're going to look at the last 5 years. Well, if they're going to be doing that, they're going to be expecting you to do it as well. So you do need to think about how you're actually using AI. And if you don't want to use it, how are you going to keep up? Because organizations that fail to adapt are going to get left behind. So today's focus is understanding what AI means for pharmaceutical professionals. Well, first of all, why is AI becoming a pharmaceutical priority? A pharma priority? Efficiency. If it's pressure to do things faster, to not add more people to the team. Higher demand to improve productivity and accelerate development life cycles, actually new products to the market. Labor gaps, skill gaps. There's shortages everywhere. Honestly, I think there's been shortages on the quality assurance side for as long as I can remember. It's always been difficult to recruit that person that you need now. You might have to wait 6 months. But if somebody's left, how are you going to carry on? How are you going to deliver the results? How are you going to make sure that you still assure the quality of your product? Everybody talks about systems and processes. Well, maybe AI can help you with that. Adoption of AI and automated solutions is a good way forward, but you have to bear in mind the human in the loop, because you're going to get drift. We're going to talk about that later. Then there's regulatory complexity. If you want something or someone to go out and check every week updates, you want to check every week the number of recalls that's taken place. You want to check every week, every day, that your suppliers not come under regulatory scrutiny. How are you going to do that every single day? Well, you can set up an automation to go out and check and come back and actually report on change. It doesn't have to report back everything. Once you've set it up once to actually monitor certain locations, when something goes wrong, yes, you'll still need the human intervention to prompt, to control what happens next. But at least you're not having to go out and check every single website yourself. The increasing complexity of requirements demands smarter, faster compliance approaches. It's really important these days that we comply with all the extra requirements. So, for example, here in the UK, we want to make sure we comply with the UK legislation, the EU legislation. Often you'll also want to comply with the US legislation. But then maybe you're supplying to Asia as well. If you have an AI set up to track it all, You can actually get it to prompt or to notify you when you've actually got to make a change, an update. Then we've got data. How much data do you have to process? Large volumes of operational data combined with advances in machine learning capabilities is going to make it easier to predict when something's going to fail, easier to identify when something needs maintaining, updating, when the test results are showing you that there's a failure in your supplier, or maybe when the use of a specific material is impacting finish stability, because it's going to be able to trace the details all the way back to source. And it might be that it was 4 or 5 years ago. Now, to go back and do that manually is going to take you days, maybe weeks. But if you can get the computer set up appropriately without using a probabilistic method, you want to use a deterministic method, you want to use something that's giving you the right data, that's not making it up as it goes along, then you might be able to get your notification in 20 minutes, maybe less, rather than waiting a week, 2 weeks, maybe even not even getting there because something else more urgent comes up. So where's it already being used? Well, it's being used in research and clinical trials, drug discovery, molecular modeling. But bear in mind, molecular modeling still needs testing. They can't do everything with AI. Clinical trial design and patient recruitment, to some extent. Targeting. But you're still going to have to physically recruit. So there's a mixture. You've got AI supporting people, not instead of people. Pharmacovigilance and signal detection is a really interesting one because it was already significantly automated anyway. AI is there to support, but I think you'll find that the automation that was already there was already well advanced before people started talking about AI. Then we have operations and quality, regulatory intelligence and submission prep. I remember back in 98, 99, I think, I was tasked with updating the technical agreements for all the subcontract manufactured sites, carrying out the audits and getting involved in the 4 cause audits. And I moved to the regulatory team. All right, I was sitting with the regulatory team. I was still reporting into QARA, actually, combined at a more senior level. But what I found out was they were already automating the assembly of regulatory intelligence and preparing their submissions automatically. They didn't use AI. They didn't use machine learning. They just structured it. They structured it. So this isn't new, but the way that we're doing it is new. The way that we make sure that it's already formatted for ECTD, that you update and you can extract the information for a different market. That's what's better now. That's what's improved with the use of AI. But make sure it's always reviewed by a person before submission. Because unfortunately, if you're using a probabilistic model, you're still going to get creations that are not true. So you need to have somebody checking it. Manufacturing process optimization is predictive. It's predictive, and it'll do your trend analysis for you, and you'll get your recommendations when you need to do your next process update, when you need to do your maintenance. Quality management and deviation investigations, I find interesting. Sorry about that. Quality management and deviation investigations. I find it interesting because the source regulations are much easier to access and summarize and extract and find the information you want using AI. And I find that it's a really good way to research. It doesn't necessarily give you the end result, but it's a good way to research to identify which regulations it is you need to comply with and make sure that they're specifically relevant to whatever it is that you're looking into. Analytical data trend analysis, I think I mentioned already. The systems that are in use are already being upgraded, serviced, and including AI in their systems. But be careful. Be careful that it's actually using real data and not doing some sort of predictive creation. Document review is a good one. We all have these manual handwritten documents with hundreds of entries, and we have to go through them and make sure that they're being filled in correctly. Sorry about this. Make sure that they're filled in correctly. Completeness and accuracy, and things like making sure the calculation's been done right. Imagine, well, I was going to say 200 pages, but actually I reviewed one that was 500 pages the other day. And you have to go through it page by page. You have to review all the calculations, make sure that they've been completed correctly, that it's followed good documentation practice, that they've all signed and dated where they're supposed to, that the calculations at each separate page has been done correctly. Imagine you've got an AI system that can do that 500-page review in less than 5 minutes. Well, I can tell you it took me a lot more than 5 minutes. But you don't have to imagine. The systems are available already. You just need to adopt them. Beyond the production floor, automation used to be restricted to manufacturing, but you can use it now for batch record review, as I just mentioned. Digital quality management systems. I've been using EQMS now for, let's think, how long? Well, it's not really the true electronic quality management systems we are using now, but I actually created an online version of pharmaceutical quality system back in, it must have been around 2004. So a while ago. But how did I do it? Well, at the time, I was creating my own websites. Was it 2004? Was it later? No. Oh, yeah, 2004, 2005. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was when I first became head of quality. And what I did was I got IT to route the for a certain folder to an IP address. So you use IP address to set up a website. And then I use Dreamweaver to give my team access to that IP address. So I set it all up with a front end. I didn't get them to do it. I just set it up as like a folder for them. And then they could share all of the SOPs, the forms, everything that people needed in a non-editable format throughout the whole of the UK. I think they have to pay a monthly subscription. I think it costs £300 for the software. And it was secure. People accessed it through the browser. They didn't access it through Word or PDF. So they could get to the documents they needed. They could get to the to do the training that they needed whenever they wanted, wherever in the UK. In fact, it was actually wherever in the world, because it was read-only access anyway, but it was internal, so it was on the intranet, so it was just in the UK. But it just shows that digital EQMS is not new, but it is a really, really good way of managing the quality system in a paperless format. Supply chain, forecasting and inventory management with real-time data analysis. Don't wait for somebody to take 3 weeks doing it by hand. Use Power BI. Get the results today. What about the regulators? Well, they do support innovation, but they do expect appropriate controls, scientific justification for AI outputs. Be careful. They do expect you to be able to explain it. Data integrity expectations haven't changed. AI doesn't alter the obligations. You need to be able to prove what's happened. Raw data, finished product, how has it been interpreted in between? Human oversight, human in the loop. You have to have the specialist still. You cannot get rid of the people just because you've introduced AI. Risk management principles apply. Validation expectations, I think, are going to change, but I think they're still going to be significant. So what are the opportunities? Faster decision making, data analysis, enabling quicker, more confident decisions across quality, operations, actually anywhere. But it's not the computer that's making the decisions faster. It's doing the data analysis for you. Be careful. Make sure you know the data that's going in, how it's being interpreted, what the output actually means. This is the bit that you need to be careful of. You need to understand what it's doing so that you can interpret the output. Don't just assume because it says, yes, everything's fine, that it is. That's the positive bias that you'll get from AI, just because of the way that it's trained. Be really careful. You have to review the data first. Improved investigations. You'll get different options, pattern recognition, predictive insights. But remember, it's you that needs to think about it. Is that really the answer that I expected? Don't just assume because it says this is the right one that it is. Get some more information. Go back with an additional prompt saying, how do I verify that this predictive output is correct? What can I do as additional tests or verification to demonstrate that this is the right thing? Reduced administration, I think, is good, freeing professionals for value-added scientific activities and better process understanding. But they need to do it. You're not going to get away from doing the work. You're still going to have to do the technical side. It might speed things up and reduce the administration. You're not going to have to click, 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 click. I've noticed recently that I can use Copilot on Excel. When I have no idea what to do with the formatting, I just say, right, Copilot, on this cell, change it to the same look as this cell. It just does it for me. All right, that's a simplified version. It was a more complex change, but I do like it. Risks and challenges. Well, anything new is always going to bring risks. Technically, poor quality data producing unreliable outputs. Lack of transparency in complex algorithms. You're never going to get full transparency in a public model, only in your own internal one. Cybersecurity and data protection concerns are massive. Massive. They've already found out that if you're doing a search on a website, that the hackers can actually embed code that affects the way that the AI processes it. So be really careful. Organizational risks. If you rely on AI recommendations above everything else, who's the one making the decision really? And once it's done, once you've made that decision, using the AI recommendation, you said, yeah, that's fine. Who's going to challenge it? Is the next person that's going to challenge it going to be the regulator? Are they going to ask you, how did you come to that decision? Was it really something you thought through? Or did you just go by the AI recommendation and click yes? Be very careful doing that. Regulatory uncertainty in some areas. Well, remember that they're still developing the regulations. So there's going to be some uncertainty. This last one's an interesting one. Resistance to change from employees and leadership. I was recently introduced to an AI system and told to start using it without any guidance. Is that leadership? It's a really good way of doing things. But if you don't get guidance, you don't get the guide rails, you don't get the governance, you can get yourself in a lot of trouble. Awareness of the risks is the first step. Organizations must build robust governance frameworks before, not after, not during, before scaling AI adoption across the organization. But how will it change pharma roles? Well, you're going to have to implement AI governance. Routine tasks are likely to become more automated, shifting towards critical thinking and decision making. Human expertise remains essential. Professionals will need to work alongside AI, not instead of it. You're going to have digital quality, digital assessments. Already, Claude can analyze an image. Imagine your full manufacturing batch, and you've got pictures throughout the whole manufacturing process. And they use those pictures to generate a digital batch record. Nobody writes anything down. It's not that far off. Data science is interesting because many people don't understand it. It's usually specialists. But if you understand the principles, now you can use AI to do your data analysis, to do your statistics, to do your process control. Imagine, there's all the data. Give me CP, CPK. Where's the risks? What do I need to change next? Look at the validation. AI validation, I think, is going to be fun. And when I say fun, I mean challenging. Because I think you'll find that a lot of the suppliers don't want to give you the information you need. People need to come to progress too. I honestly believe upskilling continuously is going to be required across all pharmaceutical disciplines. And that's why I'm sharing these LinkedIn Lives. That's why I'm talking at every conference that I get the opportunity to. Because it's important that we all move forwards together. Is your team ready? What's your digital strategy? Do you have an AI roadmap? Are you training your team in AI? Are your employees, do they understand the fundamentals and the emerging tools? But not only that, do they know when they're allowed to adopt, when they're not? Is the data reliable, accessible, and fit for AI-driven analysis? Or do you need to do some sort of transposition first? Or maybe you need to put a limitation. Maybe you need to block something. What about risk? Have the risk of AI been incorporated into your pharmaceutical quality system? Do you know what the risks are? AI is not going to replace pharmaceutical professionals. It's a tool, not a replacement for expertise. Human judgment is still going to be critical to patient safety, and organizations that combine people and technology will be the ones that thrive. Biggest risk might not be adopting AI. It might be ignoring it. The future is going to be there for people that are adaptable, digitally enabled teams who embrace continuous learning. I'm 58 now. I've been in this industry now for 40 years, and I'm still learning. I do sign up for a few too many courses on occasion. I think at the moment I've got 5 AI courses that I'm doing and access to others. But it's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting understanding the technology so that we can adopt it in our industry and minimize that risk that we just talked about. Thank you for joining today's session. I hope you found it useful. Please do leave me comments, questions, messages. You can message me direct on LinkedIn. Send me an email, info@academypharmaceuticalexcellence.com. Come and see some of my other content on YouTube if you're interested. Or submit the contact form at the website if you want. I don't mind, whichever way. Mostly the answers will come from me, mostly. The website request form doesn't come directly to me. That's the only one that doesn't. But the other 3 I will answer. So I hope you found today useful. If you do have any questions, because I can't see them at the moment, I don't know why. I used to be able to. They used to pop up, but they don't anymore. But I'll answer them on LinkedIn, any comments that you leave for me later. So thank you for joining again, and I'll see you again soon. Next one in a few days.